Here's the first story we have from the Post-Millennial. Breaking, Andy Ngo. The Post-Millennial prominent conservatives locked out of Twitter after reporting on Trans Day of Vengeance. They have this image here. It says, remove tweet violating our rules against violent speech. You may not share abusive content, harass someone, or encourage other people to do so. This is a post from the Post-Millennial on Twitter that said radical trans activists and a DC Antifa group are organizing a Trans Day of Vengeance protest, and they've blurred the day and the location because Twitter is cracking down. Now, I saw initial reporting that Marjorie Taylor Greene had been suspended for calling it out. And the initial assumption was that people who were reporting on this and criticizing it were getting suspended. They were. But what Twitter claims to have been trying to do, I think I might have the tweet here. This is Ella Irwin responding to Ian Miles Chong saying, Ian Miles Chong tweets, Twitter is now cracking down on those who promote the Trans Day of Vengeance poster, which mostly comprises of trans militants who are calling for a day of mass violence. Do not share the poster or you could be caught up in the bans to prevent mass violence from happening. Ella Irwin responds, correct. We had to automatically sweep our platform and remove more than 5,000 tweets and retweets of this poster. We do not support tweets that incite violence, irrespective of who posts them. Vengeance does not imply peaceful protest. Organizing to support a peaceful protest is okay. This is fascinating. This is absolutely fascinating because, for one, we're still seeing a problem of contextless censorship. You know, criticizing this is not the same as promoting it, but the automated censorship can't track that. But more importantly, when I went on Rogan's show all those years ago with Dorsey and Vigigate, I specifically highlighted leftist violence. Incitement to violence was being allowed on the platform. Meanwhile, people on the right were being banned. Now Twitter is actually cracking down and removing left-wing calls for extreme violence. I wonder if this is an inflection point.
Yeah, it's really interesting, fascinating to see how this has evolved and who's to credit for it. You know, Elon Musk, I guess, or some of the new teams that are in there trying to crack down. But it's interesting because we see people like MTG, Andy Ngo, they're hitting them, but only because they put it out there to highlight it, that this is improper to call for trans vengeance and violence like this, which is, you should have a right to be able to call it out and say, this is improper, this is dangerous, it doesn't, belong here, in society. But that then they try to go back and say, no, we just don't want anything suggesting violence, not even anyone criticizing the people who are calling for violence.
I'm not mad at Twitter about this one, though. They corrected it.
Yeah.
They've restored the accounts. They did an automatic sweep. I'm actually curious, Ian's perspective, because you moderated for Minds.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, I mean, if you're watching far left extremists, or far right extremists for that matter, thousands of accounts promoting a day of mass violence, what do you do?
I think they did the right thing, too, because it's like if someone posts child pornography on Twitter and then other people are like retweeting it and saying, look how gross this is.
Right.
You're still complicit in proliferating child porn at that point. So I understand what they did. They had to rip out the roots. And if you were hanging on the tree branches, you're going to fall down when that tree comes out. Well, they did the right thing by reinstating the accounts.
Right, I agree. It's a little bit more than I would say. I'd say you should be allowed to report on it. You should be, as a reporter, allowed to share this and say, look what they're calling for. You need to know this, because if you live in DC, I think it's very important you see who and what, who's sharing it and what's being shared.
It's a constant struggle in the administrationship of social medias. How do you report on images and imagery that violates the terms? Because you can't show it. You're violating the terms if you show. I mean, you can, but you're violating the terms to show it. You can blur it out, but then you're not really showing it, so no one knows what you're reporting on.
Right.
But then is that censorship?
It's definitely a form of censorship.
That's the quandary.
Not all censorship is bad.
Okay.
Yeah, if someone posts, like Ian mentioned, child porn, you want censors to catch that and get rid of it and then refer it to the police.
Yeah, well, that's a crime.
Right, exactly. And so the problem is, what we often end up seeing from these big social platforms is protection for left-wing extremist ideology, and then they ban a conservative saying learn the code. Now, my attitude here is, okay, well, it sucks that Andy, Marjorie, TPM, and others got suspended. Twitter did reinstate it. But my view is, if all of these far-left extremists are calling for, and what is it? It's this Saturday. They were calling for a weekend mass violent wave, considering what just happened the other day with that trans mass shooter. Yeah, Twitter's like, we got to get this off the platform now. So it's a challenge of, if you're reporting on it, you shouldn't get censored for reporting on it. But if you get caught up in a mass sweep to eliminate extremism and then get reinstated,
it's
unfortunate. I'm not going to cry about it.
It's kind of like a reporter standing on the side of the street while there's a riot, and they're recording it, and the cops are like, "Get out of here!" And they grab the reporter with everyone else. They arrest the reporter, then they let him go.
Like drug
That's actually a fair
sweeps.
point.
Like
Fair
drug
point.
sweeps when people get pulled up for in police raids, and then
Right.
some people are there who aren't actually there legally committing any crimes, and then hopefully, if done properly, they're released upon finding out that they're not actually guilty of anything, whether that's possession of some type of substance or a weapon or anything like that. So it feels more like something like that. Also, I did want to ask, is this connected directly to the image that they're posting, or is it keyword search with hashtags?
I think it's the image.
Okay.
And but I will stress this: as much as look, I don't want anybody who's calling this out and criticizing it to get suspended. Suspension should not be the image; it should be the call for the action.
violence.
And so Marjorie Taylor Greene has 2 tweets we can see right here. The tweet violated the Twitter rules. They're both removed. They shouldn't be. And it looks like she got a third one that was removed as well. 4. It looks like there are 4 tweets that have been removed, probably because she was saying, hey, this is bad. They should be restored. You should be allowed to share the image. It's then call for violence.
Well, it's like she's trying to call out something that is a call for violence that can be, potential like criminal conduct that also, in my opinion, presents an issue and a real threat to public safety. So when you think about it, I would want to know if I'm living in that area that there's going to be this trans vengeance situation, call for violence, no offense, as a public safety issue. If I'm going down the street, if I'm going somewhere, I want to know what's actually going on and be alerted to it in my community. That's the other problem I have just with my background and understanding how these things happen. Someone could be walking into that. They don't know what's going on. I would want to be able, it's almost like a virtual or social media community policing where people are putting it out there. Hey, FYI, look out for this. This is what's going to happen in the neighborhood. You should be aware of what's happening in your community. I don't want to have a mask over my eyes, cover my ears, and not know what's going on around me. I actually do want to be informed. So there's that as well with getting the message out. And I know you have to think about that.
You're a prosecutor.
Yes.
How would you handle people? I mean, there's thousands of people posting this call for violence. I mean, what would you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a real problem, the call for violence, but since it's actually an event that is going to take place, then you also, I believe, have a responsibility to let people know and to be aware of it. And then if you're a prosecutor and law enforcement, et cetera, you want to try to control the situation, mitigate the damage, the threat to public safety, mitigate the threat of personal injury or harm to people, of riots, of creating an unsafe situation, which we have seen happen over and over again with the call for situations like this, whether it's Ferguson or, with the hands up, don't shoot, which then turned out to not have, happened. But they said, well, it was important to call this out.
Right.
I'm telling you, it goes on from here and there. And then this is the same situation. But people want to be a little bit more sensitive to it because it involves, trans issues. Like, no, I don't care who you are, how you identify, who you sleep with. You don't have a right to commit violence that injures the community and causes harm to other human beings. That is not a right that you have.
So here's the challenge. The poster doesn't explicitly call for violence. It calls for vengeance, right?
Well, it's got enough buzzwords for people to figure it out.
Do you think you could or should prosecute someone for creating this and calling for this and posting it on the internet?
No, but that's criminal versus civilly. So put it this way. If it's something where there's like a threat of violence, we call them terrorist threats, but that's just the name on the penal code for a lot of this, which is if you threaten the life of somebody and say, I'm going to do this or that or cause, harm to someone and you threaten them, you're not allowed to do that. Okay. And that can rise to the level of a felony. But this will say, well, this is just a poster calling for people to meet peacefully. That's how they'll sugarcoat it. However, the people behind it, if ultimately that event takes place and someone does get injured or harmed, then you're looking at a civil forum where someone can come in and sue the people who threw the event, et cetera, which, by the way, we saw with January 6th, right? So, okay, how did that start? Who threw it? People went. Who was injured? Lawsuits ensued. And it's in the courts, a lot of it right now.
Even using language like vengeance, isn't that just neo-Marxist behavior,
Yep.
right? To just use vague language, which they can manipulate at any time that they want to mean whatever they want, because it's vague and it doesn't actually have any type of implication to it. But we know what it means.
Well, we know what it means because there's rifles on the picture next to the word vengeance.
I mean, even that. Like, but
that would come up in court.
And it's the image that we're talking about here. That's
Especially
why I asked about the image.
Just following what happened in Nashville.
Yeah.
With these poor children and these faculty members.
Yeah.
There is a clear understanding of what that poster means
There's
for this
context.
Saturday.
There's context out in the news, in the media, socially, etc. So people put it together.
Well, here's the crazy thing is that trans advocacy groups are still pushing. They're saying, get ready. They're telling people to take up guns and prepare for a fight. After everything that just happened.
It's so insane to me that you would think that because in order to stop the government from harming children, you're going to hurt children. Like that's what this girl did yesterday.
What it is. Yeah.
She shot up six people, 3 kids, 3 9-year-olds because she was afraid that the government was. I don't know her intentions actually. I've seen text of she said she was suicidal, could be fake text. I don't know. I don't know how many hormones and drugs she was on.
DMing her friend and etc. Yeah.
But that you think that killing people is going to protect you from the government killing people. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
That's not what they're saying, though. This is an ideological battle. They are looking at look at the rhetoric around Christians and what they think of Christians, and it's kind of clear why this person did this. Mm-hmm. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.